I wanted to talk about OpenAI's first major brand campaign. You might have seen the three 30-second spots that just came out online and streaming. They're going to launch in both the US and the UK. It's basically running these three spots of people living their everyday life and how they're using ChatGPT in the process. So one of them is you see this guy trying to do a pull up, and then like the chat format pops up saying, show me how to achieve a pull up in the next few months. And then it like details out like what the plan is. Another one, it looks like a couple and he's asking her what she thinks of like the meal, and then the prompt is show me something that'll impress somebody but doesn't show that I care that much. The third one is brother and sister inside a car, and she's asking him, oh, okay, like where are you taking me? And he's like, oh, it's a surprise, like I'm not gonna tell you. And then it like pulls up the prompt, which is like, what's a cool like road trip that I could do with my sister. And it like tells them, oh, the Blue Ridge Mountains are really nice, and it kind of shows them like driving off. The main purpose of these like campaigns is to show the ways that people are actively using ChatGPT to show you, coming up with like a plan to like, work out, or coming up with like recipes, or trip planning, which is, I think I've used ChatGPT for each of those different prompts. So I think it's like really smart to use the things that people are creating on a daily basis. And I'm sure, they have the internal data to show that these are, three of the most popular prompts that people are, asking ChatGPT for. So it's like cool that they're, using that. One other thing here that I want to call out is that they've made sure to announce that they are using a creative agency, and that it's like humans making these video spots of like actually filming them, and like the actors in them.
That they're
So
using real live actors, they're not
yes,
using AI generated images
exactly.
of people.
To like show that it's like, no, it's still a human process of like humans are doing this and how they're doing it. And they're using AI to supplement their like experience, which I think is really smart, because that's obviously a thing that a lot of people have a concern about, that, AI is going to, take over. And, we saw the discussion this last week about AI slop, right? All over, Twitter. So for them to like, use humans to come up with the ideas, to come up with like the video, to do the filming, to be the actors, really shows that they're, really thinking about the negative ideas that they have, towards them, and just using humans instead, which is smart.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's interesting is all these 3 use cases of fitness, cooking, and travel. These are all high value, low stakes tactics for
Uh-huh.
using ChatGPT, right? Where you as a person using ChatGPT for these things, very valuable, right? Very
Uh-huh.
valuable for you to learn how to learn that fitness journey to get to the point where you can do a pull up. But at the same time, it's not risky, right? It isn't
Mhm.
about like, here's how you can cure your cancer using
Yeah.
ChatGPT, right? It's not that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
even with the travel thing, right? It's two people traveling together, and it's not people trying to sell personalized travel itineraries that they just generate
Mhm.
from ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
These are all things that are deeply human and personal, and things that individuals can get immediate value out of doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think you're spot on there. I think that that's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, I don't feel like I'm competing against or putting somebody out of a job, right? Because it's like
Mhm,
most of these things we're all doing on our own when anyway, and it's a way
mhm.
to enhance what we're
Yeah,
already doing. I mean, the cooking one may be right, if like
yeah.
you take it a little bit more seriously of like going into like, a New York Times like cooking app or whatever to like research recipes there, or you follow individual like chefs or whatever to like help you do that. But
Right.
definitely for like the exercise and like travel, there aren't really travel agents that like you feel like you're putting out of business by like asking ChatGPT to give you an itinerary. The other thing too though is there are things that like we all kind of know don't give you very personalized like suggestions, right? So for like the travel one, when we've done it, it's like It's basically giving you, like, the top 10 lists of, like, the best things that you should do, right? Which is, like, kind of basic and generic. It doesn't really help you do more, like, specialized things or, like, unique things. Like, you have to do more research to do that. So I think, like, that's still, like, that balance there of, like, knowing that at least ChatGPT can get you to a starting point, and then from there, you do more intense, research to, like, figure out, like, actually, do we wanna do this, or is there stuff that, we can do here. Though, ChatGPT is improving and like the more that you ask it questions, it will get better at that.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is, with large language models, right, being derivative from other people's content,
Mhm.
I think you could take this stance of, yeah, but where did they get those recipes, right? They built that
Mhm.
off the backs of all these hundreds, thousands, whatevers of bloggers.
Mhm.
And I'm still processing how I think about this, but
Mhm.
I think a stance that I would take there is, well, food is for everybody. We have been cooking for since the beginning of our time as human
Mhm.
beings. And the pasta recipe that's being made in the commercial spot, it's not some kind of super clever, unique kind of pasta recipe. It
Yeah.
looks like a pretty basic. I mean, it looks good, right? But it looks like a
Yeah, yeah.
pretty basic pasta recipe. So it's also kind of like, I mean, there's no modern day blogger who invented making pasta with some basil and lemons.
Right, right, right.
Like there
Yeah.
isn't a blogger that owns that. So
Mhm.
I think mixed feelings in the sense that, like, I get it. Like, I, believe people should get credit, but I also think that being able to just prepare food is something that everybody has been doing since the beginning of time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, also, this is what people are using it for anyway, and it's just like the point of what they were trying to, get across here that they've spoken to is trying to introduce people into what all the other people that are using AI and using ChatGPT specifically are using it for, to
Mhm.
kind of like educate users. Which I think is really smart, right? Because there's still a huge population that isn't using, AI. They're using ChatGPT the most out of all of them. It's like the major player right now. They currently have 700 million weekly users, which is wild growth because in December they had 250 million. So that's like kind of crazy numbers. But there's still like a lot of people that aren't using it, right? So I think a major thing is like, well, what do you use it for? Like what could it possibly help me on? And so this is kind of a way to introduce them to that. And like, cooking, working out, and travel are like three of the major things that people would want help in, that they can't like really do themselves as much.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. And then I wanted to call out that one of the things here that they're really going for is by trying to humanize, having these like human moments, using like, humans to come up with the idea as actors and all that. They're really trying to push against the idea that it's all just like AI, in order to make people feel better about using AI. I mean, we talked about this last week with, Claude's approach and, Perplexity's approach. But OpenAI is going in that direction as well. Their head of international marketing at OpenAI said that they want users to build a deeper emotional connection with the brand, and that's what they're seeing as their flywheel, is to get people connected to the AI. We saw, Sam Altman announced this past weekend as well that they're launching Pulse, which is meant to come back to you the next day with like new answers or like responses to like what you talked about the day before. So he said, if you want to go on a trip to Bora Bora, like let them know so that they can be coming up with that, right? And then someone posited that, oh, this is kind of like how they're going to head into like more targeted ads, right? And then sure enough, we hear what they launched today, which Amanda's going to talk about next, as
Yeah.
like, what they intend to do, going forward. So I think that that's kind of a way for them to get people to, want to use ChatGPT over the rest of them, not feel bad about it because it's like they're still using humans and they're still doing, this, and then get people attached to that. And it's, I think, leading to them wanting to create a lifestyle brand from it, which is what Amanda will talk about next.
Yeah. So today they announced instant checkout on ChatGPT. So Now you can purchase directly inside ChatGPT, starting with Etsy sellers, and I believe Shopify stores will have this too. And now this checkout system is going to be built with Stripe and underpinned by an open standard called the Agentic Commerce Protocol, which OpenAI is also going to open source. So for now, it only supports single item purchases and US based Etsy merchants. So it'll also have multi item
Interesting.
carts, Shopify support, and then global expansion is on the roadmap too. So,
That's kind of really smart of them for two
mhm.
reasons. One, the whole idea of like Etsy being like small business owners and like, made by humans, type of mentality for me makes it easier to, oh, okay, like I'm supporting, smaller, like smaller businesses and like humans that like, I could like purchase through directly and I'm going to like find out about more products than I would usually. And then two, that helps me think that like I wouldn't be getting stuff from China that like is a huge problem with what's going on with Amazon right now where it's like people are like I'm getting dupes, these aren't like real products. And I assume also because of like the whole tariff situation that's like
Yeah.
happening also makes sense. But yeah, that it's smart of them to go like smaller so that they can I guess it's more like quality control without actually them having to do that quality control.
Well, it's aligned with the it's aligned with wanting to help small businesses grow
Mhm,
because the dupe problem is a big problem at Etsy. Like there are a lot of
mhm,
copycats, people who will copy a designer's
mhm.
product and then make cheap versions from China and
Yeah,
sell that to people. And people are thinking, "Oh, I'm buying from an individual,
totally.
shop owner." So
Mhm,
that's a problem, but I do also feel like that's one of those problems that bad actors will find a way to exploit any
mhm,
platform,
mhm,
but because by and large, still, like, the core merchant on Etsy is an individual or a
mhm.
small business, somebody who has, like, a small handmade shop, and they're trying to, share their talents with anyone who wants to buy. So,
Yeah, no,
I
cool.
think it's really cool too. I think it's a great I assume, that they're going to roll this out to other brands and
Mhm.
corporations, online stores eventually.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's a great first starting point because it does immediately have you think about the person who has their solo woodworking shop out of their garage. And it
Yeah.
makes you think, oh, I mean, that person, they're known for their hand carved ducks. And now
Yeah.
anyone who is using ChatGPT to learn about woodworking or carving, they're probably going to see that and maybe they'll be compelled to buy.
Yeah, yeah, no. And then that also brings up like if you think about the types of stores that are on Shopify, it's still very like small business. I would just always, think about where I buy like my candy from, and it's always like the Shopify link. So it's like if they're helping those type of businesses get out there a little bit more, I mean, that's super cool. That's like a new way of like finding out of new products, right? Because one thing that this reminds me of is I think, and a lot of people think that like Instagram has some of like the best ads because it's like you're seeing a bunch of like new products that are very relevant to like the things that you're looking for that are not just the same, same old brands. Like I think here like in terms of like yoga, like fitness wear, right? It's not just Nike and Adidas and all that. You're getting smaller brands that make more organic stuff, right? Or like baby stuff. I've found like a few things on there that have appealed to me and then I go and I look, it's like a small business owner and so there wouldn't have been a way for me to find that out unless it was like through Instagram. So if like ChatGPT starts competing against Instagram in that way, like that would be, I think, as a user, a really cool way to like find and discover new products. Yeah. So I think they're starting to realize that people are becoming more amenable to using AI. And now that both Anthropic and Perplexity have put out ads, they know that they need to start competing against that. And it's interesting that they've all kind of like played up the human side of things in order to kind of create that emotional connection with the brand. And it's really showing that that matters, right? Not only the brand awareness, but the type of like brand that you're putting out there that you want people to relate to and to associate with your brand. That's becoming more important than ever because they can't really say there's that much different. Like people don't really care about the technicalities of like how good the model is, right? It's like I just want to know that like the brand that I'm using like fits what I think of myself, and that's kind of what I'm seeing here. With what they're like building out. And I think that it's the right approach to take care of like educating their user on like what people are using ChatGPT for. And then for, the Shopify, I think it's really smart to go the small business route because again, it's playing up like the humanity behind it of like, oh, I'm actually getting connected to like small business owners and like people that are creating stuff on Etsy. Um, and that still has like good associations for people. So I think that that's really smart that they're approaching it that way.
Yeah, I think one thing I was thinking about regarding the whole instant checkout thing was if I'm a small business who might be selling on Etsy or who might be selling or who might have a Shopify store, I would think about what types of content do I have or have I created that address the problem that I'm solving or
Mm,
that addresses the pain point that my product ultimately solves for somebody. Because one thing I would be thinking about is, like, is there any way that I can influence my brand showing up in
mm,
a chat GPT answer?
yeah.
So I would start thinking about like, what are the what are the long tail keywords that might signal somebody has high intent to purchase? Now,
Hmm.
it might be a long tail keyword that doesn't have very high search volume, right? But and I know that yeah, of course, Google search is different from trying to influence the AI overviews and all that stuff. But if you just think of the similar corollaries of search keywords in general as things that people are looking for, things that lots of people care about, I feel like there's probably content opportunities for people perhaps right on their Etsy storefront, right? Where
Yeah.
if they're selling K-pop Demon Hunters props, right? Like wigs or hats or cosplay shirts, that you can imagine the search terms that they might want to include
Hmm.
on their website that
Hmm.
would make sure they get seen by potential buyers.
Yeah. One thing to add on to that, because I think that's a really good point, is just look at what prompt they filled in for these ads, right? For the cooking one, it was give me a recipe for to show that I know what I'm doing, but that I don't care that much, right? Like, what are these human moments that you want to like inspire and like jump on to that separate your product versus others. Like, you talk to like your users, like what are the unique situations that they've found themselves in that brought them to your product, your service, and how do they talk about it? And then use that to create some sort of not necessarily a whole case study, but some sort of like prompt of like, this is how they use it, this is how they found us. People are not that unique, right? It's like there are going to be overlap between, them, wanting to like find that. Like this one's like on a first date, right? It's like, yeah, a lot of people are going on first dates. Like this is the perfect like prompt for that. So try to come up with those types of scenarios and then use those to formulate the marketing that you're doing around it or like for like the keywords and stuff.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I like that because, yeah, when you think about those prompts, I mean, people are probably not Googling what is a recipe I can make for my date that's not too, that doesn't show that I'm trying too hard. Like, that's
Hmm.
not something you Google. It's like,
No.
that's a question you would ask your friend,
Yep.
right? Like your friend who knows how to cook. So
Hmm.
maybe marketers, yeah, could be thinking about these queries like, what is something that a human being would ask their friend who is an
Hmm.
expert in this thing?
Hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because that's kind of what they're trying to inspire in the ChatGPT ads, which is like super smart of them. Because it's like, oh yeah, that is different than asking Google.
Yeah.
Maybe it is, better to do that. So, definitely will be using that going forward with a lot of my clients because that's super smart. So I'm glad we had this this chat, Amanda. Look at that,
Yeah.
learning from each other. Awesome.